Good morning, everybody. My name is Corina Simon, and we are here today with Jacobsen, the president of the Romanian Peace Institute and director of the Department of Peace Operations here in Cluj-Napoca. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
You're known for your engagement and on-the-ground work in peace building and prevention, from Northern Ireland to Israel-Palestine, Nepal, Oaxaca, and elsewhere. How do you see the state of the field today?
I think if we're speaking about the state of the field of peace building and the work we're doing in prevention, there have been a number of improvements which are worth drawing attention to. Over the course of the last 10 years, we've had a far greater focus on building our infrastructure and capabilities for peace building. We've had the establishment within the European Union, within the Commission itself in particular, of dedicated capabilities focusing on prevention, focusing on management. At the level of the United Nations, we've had the creation of the Peace Support Office, the Peacebuilding Commission, the Peacebuilding Fund, and also bodies like the Mediation Support Unit. You've also seen parallel developments for civil society, where we've had a dramatic growth in capability, expertise, and engagement on working on peace building. There are more and more organizations than ever before in the field. There's more focused specialization and expertise in different areas, with some organizations working on mediation, some organizations working on media and conflict, gender and peace building, youth and peace building, and in particular an increasing focus on prevention. About just over 10 years ago now, you had the gradual growth in the area of early warning and work on prevention. Organizations like the Forum for Early Warning and Early Response, the International Crisis Group, and others developing. But what we've begun to see in the last few years is a greater focus on rooting prevention directly within communities, within countries. We had the experiences from just after the election some years ago in Kenya, where we saw the response of concerned citizens for peace. We saw the work of peace committees on the ground in those areas that had them, had dramatically less and lower rates of violence, and those areas that didn't. We're gradually realizing that if we want to be effective in this field, we need to improve our coordination and cooperation together. We need to draw upon the significant breadth of experience that has been gathered around the world and work to make that available, to draw the lessons identified from that and see how we can improve also the training and preparation of people working in the field, and to build standing infrastructure for peace within communities, within countries, regionally and internationally. In fact, exactly 1 week ago from the time this event is happening in Bucharest, there was a debate in the British Parliament, the second in its history, debate on prevention of violent conflict. And I think this is one of the big transformations. We're now having governments developing practical, effective policies, dedicating funds, building capabilities, whether it's the Ministry for Peace and Reconciliation in Nepal or the growing number of peace secretariats. And we have a better cooperation than before of civil society, governments, and regional and international actors. But there's still a long way to go. I think some of the challenges, especially when we look at the last 10 years, we've had a significantly increased focus on militarized responses to conflict. We've had a more than 48% increase in our world military budgets over the last 10 years. So at the same time that we're getting better at professional peace building, we're beginning to gather our lessons learned, we're beginning to cooperate more effectively, we do see worrying trends in a number of areas. And certainly a great deal of work is still being done, which does not really understand what conflict transformation or peace building is about. And that's one of the areas we need to improve.
Speaking about Romania, what do you believe are Romania's areas of expertise when it comes to peace building and prevention? How can we contribute?
As president of the Romanian Peace Institute, we're incredibly happy to have this event taking place in Bucharest, and very much appreciate the engagement of the government, the European Peacebuilding Liaison Office, the European Commission, and all of the actors which have come together around us. I think it's a very interesting time to be having this discussion, and it's very relevant that this event is taking place in Bucharest. Over the last years, we've seen an increasing engagement by a number of key actors. On the one hand, you have the foreign ministry, the government itself. In Romania's Green Book on multilateralism, we've seen an identification of peace building and post-war recovery as one of the priority areas for Romania's focus. We've also had a long track record of engagement by the Romanian Ministry of Defense and the National College of the military, focusing on training and preparing people for crisis management and post-crisis recovery operations. And Romania's had a long record of contributing to UN missions, to EU, OSCE, and others. And then on the civil society side, we have a rich number of organizations with a lot of experience working in the field. We have organizations that deal with issues of multiculturalism, dealing with conflicts between different cultures and different communities. We have organizations that have worked specifically on areas like early warning or mediation, and a lot of cross-border cooperation that's developed between Romania and Moldova, Transnistria, Romania and many of our neighboring countries in former Yugoslavia. And this is also the 10th anniversary year of the Romanian Peace Institute, Patriar, which is the first international agency in Romania's history and has a track record of 10 years of upon-request engagement in international peace support operations and facilitation of mediation and peace processes from, as you mentioned previously, Nepal, Israel-Palestine, Somalia, Sudan, Liberia, and elsewhere. And a very significant engagement in Crimea as well, focusing on prevention. What's interesting is, since Romania joined the European Union, we've begun to really have a conscious focus about what can be Romania's contribution within the context of our engagement for international development cooperation. And in that area as well, peace building, work on prevention, and post-war recovery have been identified by government, by civil society and others as a priority. In fact, all of the countries that Romania focuses on in its first tier for development cooperation, Moldova, Serbia, Georgia, are countries which have experienced or are in conflict. And then we also have a particular focus on Iraq, Afghanistan, and North Africa in the Middle East. So in all the areas that we're working on and we're focusing on, conflicts and how to engage with them effectively are important, and we're beginning to see some very practical cooperation developing with the military college, with the Romanian government, with a range of civil society organizations, and with the assistance and engagement of the United Nations as well, to build this as one of Romania's niche areas in which we can make a relevant contribution as a member of the European Union and internationally.
Thank you. And now, what are your key recommendations for improving the European Union's engagement on peace building and prevention, both by governments or member states, as well as civil society and European Union institutions?
I think while we've done a lot, there's definitely a lot more that we can and we need to do. The number of organizations has increased, the capability of governments has increased, the funding for work in the field has increased. But still, when we look at all of the work being done, I think all of us would recognize we're not having the impact that we want to. I think there's a need to focus systematically on lessons learned and try to gain these experiences and make sure that it's not only those directly working in the field, but other levels of government, other ministries and sectors are understanding them, and that we're bringing those lessons out. More focus on establishing a European, EU-wide, professionally trained peace service, which can be deployed to support operations and missions. There have been calls for the establishment or strengthening of infrastructure within the European Commission, from the creation of a European Peacebuilding Office to the establishment of an EU Peace Institute. And I also think there's much that can be done to strengthen the cooperation amongst EU civil society organizations. And one of the benefits of having this event in Bucharest is we're highlighting that also new member states have expertise that can be contributed. So strengthening the dialogue and practical engagement amongst civil society and civil society, government, and with EU institutions. At the same time, we should place much greater focus, as the theme of this conference is about, on prevention, not waiting to react until after. We're actually suggesting as an institute that we begin to take a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year ahead of time frame. Don't only wait until the violence has begun, but let's begin to regularly implement systematic strategic conflict analysis in our countries and in cooperation with partners, the United Nations and others, so that you can identify long before a situation even has a potential of becoming violent, where are underlying root causes, issues, or conflicts that need to be addressed, and help to build up and support capabilities within those countries. I think we also need to gradually shift from an orientation of having EU, Western, Northern, UN intervention to really working in long-term standing partnership. Recent initiatives such as the Global Alliance for Ministries and Departments of Peace, which is working to support countries in building up their architecture and infrastructure for peace building from local to district, state, national and regional levels are very important and should be supported. There was also a recent meeting that brought together Ghana, Guyana, the United Nations, and a new strategic partnership international, which is focusing on building infrastructure for peace and identifying some common priorities for, given the state of the field and where we are now, how can we go forward? And key amongst those is really working to strengthen peace building and prevention capabilities at the regional level, to strengthen the capabilities at civil society and government level, and to improve our capacity to address the underlying root causes. This is where Romania, the European Union, governments and civil society organizations can play a key role. And I hope that the discussions which are taking place throughout the day in Bucharest, but also the discussions which are happening across the European Union and internationally, will feed into this. 2011, it's time that we begin to recognize if we wish for peace, if we want peace, we need to seriously look at how we prepare for it, how we build it, and how we engage in it. None of us can relax upon what's been achieved. All we need to do is look around the world and we see that the scale of need is very significant. We've begun building and gaining good experience. There's a lot more to do. At the Romanian Peace Institute, we applaud the fact that Romania is beginning to take steps in this direction. We have a long history that can be built upon, and there's a lot that we can do and we can learn together with partners within the EU and internationally. And I hope the discussions that will take place throughout the day help to contribute to that.
Thank you very much, Kai, for Civil Society Dialogue Network, Tuesday, 28th of June. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.